All right, let's jump right into what is, honestly, an incredibly complex legal labyrinth surrounding internet figure Thomas Schoenberger and his sprawling battles across Michigan's court systems. If you've been following the dizzying amount of paperwork flying back and forth in these dockets, you know we're looking at a truly unprecedented web of allegations, jurisdictional fights, and some highly unusual courtroom drama. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how Schoenberger has been desperately trying to keep these multi-layered cases alive, using motions to vacate, amended complaints, and challenges to judge disqualification, and we'll see how courts are pushing back, particularly in Wayne County, where his elaborate claims were flat-out labeled as vexatious. To make sense of this entire web, we'll map our way through 6 quick sections: the Cicada 3301 lawsuits, the massive conspiracy claims, the disqualified judge drama, tactics to revive the case, the federal court front, and finally, where the labyrinth leads. Now, just look at the sheer theatrical intensity of Schoenberger's accusations against Michigan State University. The plaintiffs are arguing that the university isn't just, publishing research, but actively proselytizing a chosen religion and inflicting ideological dogma on the public. That immediately tells you this is absolutely not your standard defamation or contract dispute. It's being framed by the plaintiff as a full-blown ideological war. To put the scale of this into perspective, Schoenberger isn't just fighting one battle. He is literally waging a 3-front war simultaneously. We've got the Wayne County Circuit Court handling case number 25.012153CZ, which deals heavily with dismissal fights. Then the Federal District Court wrestling with jurisdiction in case number 225CV-12937TGB-KGA. And finally, the Court of Claims holding pending actions under case number 2025-0045MM. It's like a legal hydra, right? If one head gets cut off in state court, another one just rears right up in federal court. Section 1, the Cicada 3301 lawsuits. The foundational conflict. To really grasp this conflict, you kind of have to look at the geography of everyone involved. On one side, we have Schoenberger and his Cicada 3301 entities, and they're operating out of Utah. On the opposing side, a sprawling list of defendants, including the Michigan State University trustees, Professor Laura Dilley, and a handful of private individuals like Lisa Ann Derrick, Paula Davis, and Corey Daniel. And they are scattered all across Michigan, California, and Indiana. This vast geographic spread is exactly why jurisdiction becomes such a massive, contentious battlefield later in our explainer. Section 2. Massive conspiracy claims. Sprawling allegations. So what exactly is he alleging? Well, figuring that out requires looking at his incredibly dense, sprawling amended complaint. In the actual Wayne County paperwork, the plaintiff accuses these defendants of acting in active concert to impose their chosen religion on the public. According to Schoenberger, the defendants essentially used the veneer of the state of Michigan to launch a highly coordinated campaign to utterly destroy his reputation and his livelihood. The specific claims within this conspiracy narrative are honestly staggering. Schoenberger alleges that Professor Laura Dilley used her academic platform to falsely tie him to the tragic February 2023 MSU mass shooting, claiming he used stochastic terrorism tactics. He also claims she actually coordinated vigilante internet trolls to attack him. On top of that, the complete highlights how defendant Lisa Ann Derrick brought up highly disputed sexual assault allegations from way back in the 1990s in court affidavits. Schoenberger's stance is that this whole thing is a massive, coordinated defamation effort using academic papers and public live chats to absolutely ruin him. And he points to very specific online attacks to back this up, like alleged live chat quotes from defendant Corey Michael Daniel calling him a pathological liar who is, quote, about a month away from being homeless. This really helps you grasp the visceral, deeply personal animosity fueling all this litigation. Schoenberger argues, hey, this isn't just standard internet trash talk. It's a weaponized campaign causing him severe financial and emotional harm. Section 3, the disqualified judge drama. A bizarre procedural turn. Let's walk through this timeline, because this is where the legal maneuvering gets wild. On November 6th, Judge Snow hears oral arguments. Literally the very next day, she grants a summary disposition, officially dismissing defendants Derrick and Davis from the case. That's a massive blow to Schoenberger. But wait, just 11 days later, Judge Snow signs an order reassigning the case because she was actually disqualified from hearing it. The revelation that she was disqualified during the exact same time she issued the dismissal was an absolute bombshell for Schoenberger's legal team. Which brings us to a really fascinating legal concept: quorum non judice. Schoenberger's team aggressively seized on this doctrine. They argued that because Judge Snow was disqualified from the case when she issued her ruling, her dismissal order was basically a legal ghost. In their view, the order was void ab initio, meaning void from the very beginning, because it just wasn't made by a judge with the proper authority to preside over the matter. So they demanded a complete do-over. Section 4. Tactics to revive the case. Demanding a do-over. So, armed with this anomaly, Schoenberger's team went into overdrive, and the paperwork just piled up. They filed emergency verified motions to vacate Judge Snow's order, but they didn't stop there. Alongside that, they submitted a massive, revised 100-plus page amended complaint to the newly assigned judge, Judge Catherine Heese. They weren't just trying to get the dismissed defendants back in the case. They were trying to expand the entire battlefield, with even more detailed allegations against the university and the individual defendants. But right in the middle of these high-stakes attempts to revive the case, we get a bizarre, almost absurd microdrama during a virtual court appearance. When Judge Hayes convened a Zoom hearing on April 1st to try and sort this mess out, the conflict literally spilled right through the computer screen. Following that hearing, Schoenberger's team actually filed a formal notice of suggestion of photographing. They officially accused defendant Paula Davis and her husband of secretly recording or photographing Schoenberger's face through the Zoom screen during the oral arguments. They claimed this mechanical recording threatened the very integrity of the judicial process. It just proves that the extreme animosity here extended to every single second of a litigation, even when everyone was just sitting silently in a virtual grid. But ultimately, despite the really intense arguments about Judge Snow's recusal and the whole quorum non judice doctrine, the attempt to revive the Wayne County action completely failed. Judge Hayes stepped in, reviewed the situation, and formally denied the motion to vacate. And this is key. The court actually identified this litigation as vexatious, effectively rejecting Thomas's elaborate conspiracy claims regarding MSU and Professor Laura Dilley in that venue. It completely shut down his efforts to keep those specific claims alive in Wayne County. And the official order, signed by Judge Hayes on April 6th, sets it in stone. The Wayne County Court signaled loud and clear that it was not going to entertain the sprawling, elaborate conspiracy theories Schoenberger was weaving together regarding the university. It stopped that specific procedural tactic dead in its tracks. Section 5. The Federal Court Front, a parallel battlefield. Over in federal court, we're seeing these dueling narratives focused heavily on jurisdiction. Schoenberger claims there's an elaborate conspiracy deeply tied to Michigan, involving Michigan residents and Michigan State University, meaning the federal court there is absolutely the right place for the fight. But the defense vigorously argues this is legally absurd. They point out, hey, Schoenberger is in Utah, and key defendants are out in California and Indiana. They argue there is absolutely zero personal jurisdiction to drag them into a federal courtroom in Michigan. In their reply briefs, the defense goes straight on the offensive. They argue that Schoenberger's elaborate claims of a coordinated conspiracy are just conclusory allegations based purely on hearsay. They state there is no first-hand factual basis to anchor these out-of-state defendants to a Michigan jurisdiction. The defense is basically begging the federal judge to look at those Wayne County dismissals as a sign that these claims simply don't hold water. Section 6. Where the labyrinth leads. The final battlegrounds. The big takeaway here is that while Schoenberger's procedural revival strategy in Wayne County hit a massive brick wall, with the court rejecting his elaborate university conspiracy claims entirely, the war isn't technically over. The sprawling allegations of ideological warfare, academic defamation, and coordinated internet destruction are still echoing loudly in the federal courts and the Michigan Court of Claims. He's compartmentalized his legal battles across multiple fronts to keep the pressure on. It's a really stark example of how messy, decentralized internet drama can drastically drain resources when it violently spills over into the real-world legal system. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. As the federal and claims court judges begin to weigh these explosive, multi-jurisdictional conspiracy claims and look back at the dismissals that have already happened, will Schoenberger finally find his footing to force a trial? Or is this entire legal labyrinth finally about to collapse under its own weight? It is a high-stakes standoff, for sure, and we'll be watching the dockets closely to see what happens next.